Hello, everyone, and welcome to my studio. And today, I want to take you on a journey with me as we explore the sacred feminine in the Indigenous peoples' culture of America. The image that I'm going to use in this collage was one that I came across on Pinterest a few years ago. And I found it again when I was traveling to New Mexico a couple of weeks ago, and I stopped at one of the reservation run shops, and there were a lot of pictures. They were postcards that are from their archives, and I found her. So I got several different images, but today we're going to work with her. I also was pleased to hear that so many of you really like the idea of the sacred feminine, and that you thought you too may focus this on your journey through this amazing book structure that we've created together. And I'm looking forward to not only having so much fun with this book, but sharing my insights and perceptions and connections to the sacred feminine. And I'm always looking forward to hearing yours in the comment section and the emails and what have you that you sent me. I think it's just, like amazing to hear all the various stories and journeys. So let's get started here with sorting through our papers. These are some of the stainables that I showed you from last week. And so I'm kind of playing around with figuring out which one I like as the background for this photo. I feel like they have this wallpaper look. And like a lot of times older buildings or structures that we come to, or that aged feeling of wallpaper from the 30s, the 40s that have just aged. This is the kind of vibe that I'm getting from this particular collage. So as I work through it, I also want to share some of my writings around the belief of Earth as mother with many of the Indigenous people of America. So I got a little storytelling that I want to share with you while we're working on this collage. The Earth is considered as a mother in the traditions of the Indigenous peoples of America. This belief is rooted in the understanding that Earth provides life, sustenance, nourishment. Indigenous people view the earth as a living being with whom they have a relationship of reciprocity and respect. The earth is not seen as a commodity, but as a sacred entity that must be protected and cared for. The importance of earth as a mother is reflected in the spiritual practices of the Indigenous people. And so in the Americas, North and South America, many of these practices we are familiar with, right? With the various ceremonial dances. We often hear, a lot about the Mayan and the Toltec practices of South America. And so many indigenous communities have ceremonies and rituals that honor the earth and express gratitude for its gifts. For example, the Hopi people of Arizona, where I'm living now, have a ceremony called the 𝐒𝐄𝐖𝐒 dance. And you do see 𝐒𝐄𝐿𝐼𝐻s everywhere out here, which is performed to ensure the fertility of earth and the continuation of life. I'm sort of deciding on that piece. I think it goes good with the photo, and I like the color background. Looks like wallpaper for sure. Furthermore, the earth is central to the identity and culture of Indigenous people. The land is not just a physical space, but it's also a spiritual and emotional space that connects them to their ancestors and their heritage. The earth is a source of wisdom, knowledge, and traditional practices that have been passed down from generation to generation. The Algonquin legend describes the Earth Mother as the source of water of life. I love that. The source of the water of life, which nourishes all living beings on the earth. According to the legend, she resides beneath the clouds and provides sustenance to animals and plants and humans. The Earth Mother is considered a sacred and revered figure in the Algonquin culture, and her importance is reflected in the various spiritual practices and traditions. With this particular image, as I was looking at it, I really saw that whole balance of the bowl, the woman's head and body. It really reminded me kind of a figure 8, which is also an iconic symbol for the sacred feminine. And so that's what kind of inspired me to cut it out. I was thinking about maybe I would probably use those sides for something, kind of considering it, but it's really that shape, that sort of figure 8 that really, grabbed my eye and wanted me to work with that. Also, those huge scissors weren't the best. I had to get my smaller ones, but so one legend among the Native Americans is that the earth was created by the Great Spirit as a mother of all life. Another legend tells of a woman who falls from the sky and is caught by birds, who then bring her to the water animals who help her build land on Turtle's Back, forming Turtle Island, which is what the Native Americans call our realm. You oftentimes see the turtle being depicted with civilization on the back of it. And it's often called Turtle Island. The earth is then referred to as the mother of all life and the turtle as her helper. I love that. So there's a number of different stories among the Indigenous Americans. Let's talk about the Hopi creation story. I love these creation stories. I don't know if you all are into these or have really spent time reading the various creation stories. They're all very similar, but I just love them. So the earth is seen as a mother who gave birth to all living things. This is the Hopi creation story. The story begins with the emergence of the Hopi people from the underworld, where they had lived for many years. As they emerged, they were met by the spider woman, who instructed them to follow her to the surface of the earth. Once they reached the surface, the spider woman took them to the eldest of the ant people, who taught the Hopi people how to live in harmony with the earth. The ant people also taught them how to farm, build homes, and live peacefully with one another. As the Hopi people continued to thrive, they began to honor the earth as a living being, recognizing that she gave birth to all living things. They believed that the earth was a sacred entity that should be respected and cared for. The Hopi creation story serves as a reminder of the importance of living in harmony with the earth and recognizing her as a living being. It also highlights the significance of community and working together to create a peaceful and sustainable way of life. And if you look into some of the further stories of why the Hopi people even went to live inside the earth, it had to do with one of the great deluges and sort of a reset. And they were warned by the same ant people that the floods and these calamities were coming, and they were led into the earth, and they lived there for many, many years and were protected from all of the resets and what have you that were happening on the surface of the earth. And so with this particular creation story, it shows how they were being led back out the earth. So there's a number of these stories, and they also surround the idea of the ant people being the ones that help save those of us who see the mother as this incredible sacred being as the planet, and who stay connected. She also protects us and will lead us to safety and keep us until things environmentally that aren't good for us change and we're allowed to be restored to the surface again. So I just think that that's a beautiful example of being in harmony with earth, and as a sentient being, having the qualities that mothers have when they protect their children, it's just beautiful. And so it's something that I hold dear during these times when we have so much going on the earth. I just believe that the mother is going to protect us, and especially as we connect more with her and listen to her and spend time with her. She gives us a lot of messages. Here, I was working with that stained piece of paper, but I didn't like the fact that the edges were still white. So you'll see where I used the coffee stain. So if you're wondering what I was spraying on that piece of paper, it was coffee, and then I was letting it dry. Okay, so now there's a Cherokee creation story that I'd like to share. It's a tale of how the earth was created by the Great Spirit and how humans were fashioned from the earth. According to the story, the Great Spirit created the universe, including the stars, sun, and moon. The Great Spirit also created the earth, which was covered in water. The Spirit then sent animals to search for land, and when they found it, the Great Spirit created mountains, trees, and valleys. I love it. That's a piece of sort of that lace paper that I love to stain, and we did it in that Tamashii Bundles course that I did last year this time, basically. And but it's staining with all of the Seth Apter, the Tim Holtz, the Sumi inks, all of that stuff. Just makes beautiful staining, and I love that paper, and I love using it in my work. Also, I'm working with some birch bark, so that really thin sort of paper-like substance that you see me working with is birch bark. The Great Spirit then created the first man and woman from the earth, and they were given the responsibility of caring for the earth and its creatures. The story also tells of the importance of balance and harmony in nature and the need to respect all living things. Overall, the Cherokee creation story provides a unique perspective on the origins of Earth and humanity. It emphasizes the interconnectedness of all living things and the importance of living in harmony with nature. I also am sort of playing around with the idea of the feather, give you insight there, because one of my totem animals that was given to me over 10 years ago when I lived in the Southwest I'm in the Southwest now, but I was living in New Mexico at the time. And for about 7 or 8 months, it was this raven that would come every night and sleep outside of my bedroom window, up in sort of kind of just clutching the adobe, so stucco. They kind of sleep upside down. And I later found out that it was like a protection totem. It was like a rites of passage. I was going through a lot in my life then. And so that black feather just reminds me of the raven and of that totem and of that protective quality that the mother will look out for us. Like sometimes she'll send us animals. It can be birds and cats and crawling creatures and butterflies, and a squirrel will constantly come back to your window or your balcony area and what have you, and look for these little forms of communication. It just amazes me, the beauty in all of that. So that's why I'm like really working with that feather. I want to make it work. So with the next creation story that I want to talk about is the Iroquois creation story. It's a fascinating account of the origins of Earth and its inhabitants. According to this story, the Earth is seen as a mother who gave birth to the first people. The story describes how the Earth was created and how the first people came to be. The story begins with Earth as a dark and lifeless place. The Creator, a supreme being known as the Great Spirit, decided to create life on Earth. He created plants, animals, and eventually humans. The first human was a woman named Sky Woman, who fell from the sky and landed on the rock on the back of a turtle. The turtle grew into the earth and creating mountains and valleys as it went. Sky Woman gave birth to twins, one of whom was good and the other evil. The good twin, named Sapling, created all that was good in the world, and the evil twin, Flint, created all that was bad. The two twins were in constant conflict, and the world was in chaos. It's amazing how all these creation stories have these similar elements. They also have elements similar to other creation stories. I'm sure you guys are recognizing the similarities, which is why I wanted to read from various creation stories of the indigenous people of America, because as you really look into the idea of the sacred feminine and the earth as mother, and deep into some of the spiritual practices of all peoples, when you go far enough back, it's amazing how similar all these stories really are. And when you get to the roots of the similarities, they're very natural and beautiful in ways, and not necessarily as diabolical as some of them can sound in their more modern versions. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and just see, like what you all think about that idea, that notion of these similarities in stories. So the Great Spirit eventually intervened and separated the twins, sending them to opposite sides of the world. Sapling was given control over the daylight, while Flint was given control over the night. The two were made to balance each other out, and the world became more harmonious. So the Iroquois creation story is a beautiful and powerful account of the origins of Earth and its inhabitants, as many of these stories are. It teaches us the importance of balance and harmony. And this story has been passed down through generations and continues to inspire and enlighten the people to today, and these stories are kept alive in many of the indigenous communities. So I'm like really playing with these elements. I also was using a little bit of black ink for my ink pad, because I like to put sort of a black, if you put a little bit of black around the edges, it almost makes like a drop shadow kind of feel to an image when you lay it down, and it just visually separates it from the background just a bit versus laying there really flat. And so that's why I like using that ink pad. Okay, so yeah, you're up for another creation story? Got a couple more here. So let's talk about the Navajo creation story. It's a beautiful and complex tale that outlines the origins, once again, of Earth and the people on Earth. According to the story, the Earth was created by the holy people who used their powers to shape the land, the water, and the sky. They also created the plants, the animals, and the inhabitants. So similarly, all these stories are encapsulating everything that was created within the realms. After the creation of Earth, the holy people decided to create humans. They gathered together and used their powers to create the first man and woman from the earth. So the idea of forming, from clay, right? Or from the soil of the Great Mother. They breathed life into them and then gave them the ability to communicate with the holy people and with each other. The first humans were given the responsibility of taking care of the earth and all its creatures. They were taught to live in harmony with nature and respect the land and its resources. So this idea of respect, of reciprocity, of living in communion with the earth and with nature is just thematic. And I believe that we're living in times that it's like we could really stand. I know I do. I'll speak for myself. Really connecting back to earth has really been huge for me in my personal healing over the last few years. And it's brought like incredible depth and meaning to my artwork, just to stay so close to the mother into the aspect of the sacred feminine as an energy, as a force, not as gender. And you hear me say that a lot because I like to separate it out, because we hear masculine, feminine, what have you, we're immediately programmed to think in terms of gender. But that's not all of the implications when we think about it from a standpoint of science, of quantum theory, of evolution, of electromagnetic fields. It's actually a force that is considered a masculine and a feminine force or frequency. And that's what we're talking about when we think about the earth. It's a force field. It's a frequency that generates nurturing and healing and creation. Just like it's often talked about that the sun is, Father, Son, Mother Earth. So the sun is bringing all of the support that's needed and the protection that's needed to grow things and to mature life and to give warmth and all these other qualities. So that would be the sacred masculine. So I always like to stop and say that, because I know you all that are, been hanging out with me for a while are aware that that's what I mean by, but I think it's important to always remind ourselves so we can, separate the conversations out and really, really, really connect and give the amount of love and respect that this planet and the Great Mother deserves. So with this Zuni creation story, according to the story, the earth is seen as a mother that gave birth to all living things. The Zuni people believe that their ancestors were created from the earth and that they have a close connection with the land. The story begins with the emergence of the Father Son. It's funny because I was just talking about that, and here I have it just comes up in my notes. So that was a natural place to kind of stop and have that conversation. That's funny. So the Father, Son, and the moon as mother. They saw the earth mother. They saw the earth mother and fell in love with her. So it's funny that it begins with the father as the sun and the mother as the moon, but then they saw earth, and wow, did they fall in love with her. And they decided to have children and asked the earth mother if she would be their partner. The earth mother agreed. And together they had 4 children. The first child was a girl who became the mother of the Zuni people. The Zuni people believe that their ancestors were created from the earth, mother's body, which is why they have a strong connection to the land. They believe that they must care for the earth in the same way that a child cares for its mother. I love that. The Zuni people have a deep respect for nature, and they believe that all living things and beings are connected. So in conclusion, with the Zuni story, it's a powerful narrative that highlights the importance of our connection to the earth. It teaches us to respect and care for the land, which is the source of our existence. The Zuni people's belief in their close connection to the land is a reminder that we are all a part of a larger and interconnected ecosystem, and that we must work together to protect it. And so, we've seen in these various stories, and I recounted 6 of them, it's this huge similarity to the sacred feminine, being the mother. Earth is mother, the nurturer, the creator, even destructress. And when we think of destructress, it sounds like, oh my God, to destroy. But when we think about the cycles of the planting season, when we harvest everything that's been created and nurtured for sustenance, because that harvesting goes into something that continues to create life and to revitalize life, we also have to clear the fields. And in that clearing, or what we may call destructrix systems, process, we're actually renewing. So it's not so much destroying as it is the renewal of the seat of creation so that we can begin again. And so it's this beautiful cycle. And so sometimes we do have to, take things apart and get rid of things and give things away and, get new things and what have you to begin that cycle again. So I love, love, love the stories of Indigenous people. And I'd like to get your feedback on which story you may be connected with most, how you see some of these creation stories. If we think about the Indigenous peoples in America, or if you're in another country, you could think about your own Indigenous peoples creation stories. I'd like to hear some of them from you all. Please reach out and share them with me. And also, as I'm looking and moving through various stories, as you share stories with me from the sacred feminine, maybe in your cultures, your countries, your, geographic regions, I'd love to research them and be able to add them to this book, because I would like this book to be a compilation of as many stories as I can find, and as many connections to the sacred feminine that's at this root, this base Indigenous space that I feel like we're all being birthed up out of again, and that we're being just amazingly connected through with our art and in our art. And so please share with me as much as I'd like to see the work that you're doing in your books. I want to see these stories, and I'm going to be adding a lot of the stories that I'm writing up and sharing with you. I'll be working them into this journal. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do it. I may just maybe create some pockets and put a lot of my notes in there, because I would love this to be a total compilation of this whole sort of process. I'm a researcher, my background in anthropology. I just can't get away from it, but I love, love, love to find the similarities and connect us all as similar, beautiful human beings that have so much to offer, and we can do it so much through our art. Till next week, love you all. Have, fun in your studios creating. Definitely looking forward to the feedback and your sharing with me. And let's keep on moving through the journal. Make sure to thumb up the video if you enjoyed this. Also, please hit the bell all if you're new to the channel, and continue to join us and come over to Premiere when the videos go live, and hit Premiere. Hit notify me, and then YouTube will notify you, and you can come in here and we chat it up in Premiere. We have the best time. So love you guys. Take care.